Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to our productivity session. I'm Gabby, if we haven't met before, and we're going to give everybody just a little minute to join since it is just now 10 a.m. I'm so excited to do this second session. Hopefully, everybody liked the first one. It's going to be really neat to reflect back on last week as we then move into planning next week. So we'll give everybody just 1 minute to join. Take this time to get your journal ready, your notebook, your worksheet if you're using one of our worksheets, but just get settled in while we wait for everybody to join. Today is actually a Red Bull day. Normally I'm a coffee girly, but today is calling for some Red Bull, I can tell you that. Feel free to say hi in chat. I'd love to know who's here as we get going. I know some of y'all are a little shy, a little quiet. That's okay too. Okay, if I lean that way, you can see my Christmas tree behind me. If you remember from last week, I was trying to move this so you can see it more. I swear I can't get this right. Like which way is which? Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Amy. Thank you guys so much for coming back. I'm so excited to see you. Jeremy says +1 on the Red Bull. Yes, this is a watermelon sugar-free Red Bull. I don't want to get anybody started on any bad habits if you don't already have them, but this one's really good. All right. Hopefully everybody has their beverages, their notebook, journal, worksheet, or digital planner of choice. Hi, Sam. Good morning. Thank you for joining. I'm glad to see you here. Jeremy says it reminds him of a Slurpee. Yes, this watermelon Red Bull does taste like a Slurpee. It's nice. It is, I'm just going to say it again, sugar-free. I've already been to the gym and I'm very proud of myself, but I have a big day ahead. So definitely I'm going to need all of this energy. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. And again, as people join, feel free to say hi. So today, since it's our second session in this series, what we're going to do is start with a reflection back on the previous week because we can learn the best from our successes and from our misses. And so as we, think about the week ahead, let's take a few minutes to think about the week that passed. Kelly, good morning. Thank you for joining, Kelly. It's so good to see you. Look, my Christmas tree is up. I'm so excited about that. I'm like, I just want to keep looking at it. So I have it on camera, partially for me, partially for you. So let's go ahead and reflect back on the previous week. And if you have your goals that you had set last week, awesome. Hopefully you've got those as a reference in front of you. One of the best ways to track your progress over time is to make sure that you have somewhere where you're putting all of this so you can kind of see how well you've done and you can also see where you might need to make adjustments. So I'm excited that everybody's working together again in their journals, notebooks, or on the worksheets, and hopefully you're collecting them because as this series continues, you'll be able to see how much amazing progress you've made on your goals, which I think is so important. But as we look back at last week, my first question to you is going to be, what was your biggest win this past week? And feel free to jot it down in your notebook. Definitely jot it down in your notebook. And feel free to put it in chat if you want to celebrate with the group. I am so excited that my biggest win personally is that I did get my tree up. I know that may seem minor to some people. I'm just going to keep showing it. It's not fully decorated, by the way, but it's up, and that was the goal, right? And so I have never actually put the artificial tree together myself. So this is my first year putting the tree up myself ever, and especially the artificial tree. So that is why I'm definitely considering it my biggest win of the week. It was frankly the thing that I had put for the week that I was the most afraid of and intimidated by. And so I made sure to hit that on Monday. So that's kind of one of the things I do is whatever it is that I'm afraid of the most, I do it first and get it out of the way because I don't want to spend the whole week dreading it. You know what I mean? So, and then I get to enjoy my tree more. So I'd love to know if you guys don't mind sharing. I'd love to know what your biggest win from the past week was. I'm just going to keep using my tree as an example. I know there's a little bit of a delay on chat, so I'm going to just give you guys a few more seconds if anybody is putting their biggest win in. But even if you don't feel comfortable sharing it, that's okay. Make sure that you do write it down, though. This is a really important part of the process. Trust the process. All right, our next reflection question is as you look back on last week, what are the challenges you faced, right? Like where did you have some challenges or obstacles and how did you handle them? And that can be a point of pride as well, knowing that you did face down challenges because we all have them. Not overthinking tasks. That's really, really good, Sam. That's a good win. Like it's huge to not overthink your tasks and not let them have bigger weight than they deserve, So very, very good. That's a really good win. All right. What challenges did you face and how did you handle them? And for those of you just joining, if you missed the first reflection question, just to get you caught up, it was what was your biggest win from the past week? For me, what was the biggest challenge I faced? I think that this is me getting super transparent and vulnerable. I always take December as reflection time. And so my body, my brain, it's used to me moving into this reflection mode in December. And so I have some things I need to tie up before the end of the year for the business. But part of me has already moved on into this reflection mode where I'm ready to be done with the doing of things. And I'm ready to be like doing this like deep introspective work that I do every year. So balancing that this week was a little bit challenging and I hadn't anticipated that. I thought, no, I'm going to do my stuff. And I did, mostly, but there's one or two things that I let slip. But I just hadn't anticipated how ready I am to move into this reflection mode. But I also take that as a win because personally, I got a lot of really good reflection done on the things that are important to me. And that's valuable too. So that was one of my biggest challenge. And how I handled it personally was I just embraced it, frankly. Like instead of feeling bad about it, I'm like, okay, well, this is where I am and I'm going to honor that. And I'm going to spend the time on the things that are important to me. And that's valuable. So I'm okay with that basically. If anybody feels like sharing a challenge, if you feel comfortable sharing one of your challenges, feel free. I know there's been like a cold and frankly, even walking pneumonia going around. And some of us were a little under the weather and trying to shake that. That's normal. Give yourself grace if you were dealing with any illnesses like that. That's totally part of life, right? All right. Our final reflection question as we look back on last week is what would you do differently next week? So, taking any learnings from the week, whether that was any misses or any of the challenges, what would you do differently? What learnings do you want to apply to next week before we get into planning next week? What would I do differently next week? I think for me, next week is going to be about just embracing where my mind wants to be right now, which is, deep in this reflection mode. So I'm going to worry less about producing next week. And I think focus more on some of that deep internal work that I'm doing. But I did get a lot of that done this past week. I will say that. All right. And this is a good one just to jot in your journal, in your notebook. What would you do differently next week based on how last week went? Whether that's doing more of what made you successful or learning from some of the challenges. Sam says, write more of this down throughout the week. Yeah, Sam, that's a great learning is to just keep checking in throughout the week and writing some of this down as the week goes. Because I do think it's important to maintain that intentionality and that focus throughout the week. So that's a really good call out. All right, I'm going to give y'all another minute on the what would you do differently next week. All right. Thank you all for doing that exercise. I hope that you liked the reflection exercise. And even if you didn't like it, I'm glad you did it because even if it was uncomfortable, it's good to learn to sit with discomfort as we learn to reflect and apply learnings. It's a really important process. So I'm proud of you for doing it. And now, my next step is to really check in on those monthly goals. So at the beginning of the session last week, I asked everybody to write down 3 top level goals for the month. And so what I want you to do is just check in with how those 3 top level goals feel. Think about last week and just be like, yep, those are still the right 3 top level monthly goals, but just re-anchor into those top level goals for the month and make sure that that is still what you're feeling now that you've spent some time with this process. If you didn't get an opportunity to set those 3 top level goals for the month last week, maybe take a minute to do that now, but just re-anchor into them. And just as a reminder, I'll share what mine were, which was my 3 top level goals are building my business, focusing on my health, and enjoying the holiday and spending time with family. And those still feel right to me. I think the definition of building my business for me is a little different in December since it's a lot of like reflection and strategy, but that still counts as that. And I really enjoyed the time I spent with my family. I got some good quality time with my sister this past week, and on the holiday front, getting my tree up. So I still feel really good about my 3 top level goals, but just anchor into those before we pivot into setting the weekly goals for next week. Because again, your weekly goals should support and sustain what you're trying to do for the month. I wish I could have some like Christmas music on in the background, but YouTube is like super weird about music. So I need to research how to find a way to have background music that won't get me in trouble with YouTube. I'm a little new to doing lives. I know how to do it with the produced videos, but on lives, I'm a little scared, but I'll figure it out because I think it would be fun to have some like holiday festive music in the background. All right, now that you've got your 3 monthly goals top of mind, let's move into goal setting for the week. So, as you look at the week ahead, I'm going to challenge you to take your 3 top level monthly goals and write down one thing that you are going to do this week in service of each of those 3 goals. And I'm saying that because it's so easy to let our non work goals fall by the wayside, especially at the end of the year. And this is your opportunity to invest in yourself and what's really important to you by making a commitment to do at least one thing for each of those 3 areas that are so important to you for this month. And I think that that's great to have clarity on. Um, and hopefully it helps motivate you for the week as well, knowing that you're really living in service to some of your higher goals. So, again, your first goal setting exercise is to write down one goal or one thing you're going to do this week that's in service of each of your 3 monthly goals, each of your 3 priority areas. And if you feel like sharing in the chat, please go for it. I would love to know what's going on with everybody. If you're not comfortable with that, that's okay. But I would love to know kind of what everybody's doing to support their goals this week. It's kind of my favorite part, to be honest, is making those commitments to yourself. And kinda to Sam's point about her learning from last week, make sure you're bringing in your learnings as you go through this goal setting exercise, and you can start with this one or on the next one if you want. All right, for our next goal setting exercise, oh, Jeremy, thank you. For the monthly goal of getting the house in a better state, the weekly goal is to schedule TaskRabbit. Yay! I love that, Jeremy. It is so important to make your home the space you need it to be. And I love that you're investing in that. And so I think that's a great goal is to schedule TaskRabbit. Thanks for sharing that. Also, it's going to look super good. All right, your next goal setting question is what is one urgent task you need to handle this week? And what is one urgent goal? Sorry, one important but not urgent goal you can work on? So, just like Jeremy reminded us last week, you can have things in some of these goals that don't necessarily tie back to your monthly goals just because there's stuff we have to do, and that's okay. But think about one urgent task you need to handle this week and one important but not urgent goal you can work on. All right. And then for the final goal setting exercise, is excuse me, is there something you've been putting off? And we all put things off, that's okay. But is there something you've been putting off where you can take a small step on that this week? Mine just came to me and I don't want to do it. But I know I need to, which is that I need to sort out which accountant is doing which of my business taxes. That's embarrassing to admit, but I need to figure out if I'm moving one of my business taxes to the other accountant. So I think making that decision will be my small step this week on something I've been putting off. And I hope me sharing this with you helps you guys feel more comfortable with whatever it is that you're putting off. Because sometimes we put off ridiculously small things, and sometimes we put off ridiculously big things that we're kind of embarrassed to admit, but we all do it. It's okay. And the point of like the whole series is to give everybody like this support and structure to start tackling those things, basically. Eric says, I'm about to do all of my missing assignments that I have left due tomorrow. I find it so difficult just to stay committed to school, and it doesn't seem as important as much as high school did. Eric, thank you for sharing that. That is such an important thing to work on. And it's such an important thing to be able to commit to yourself that you know you need to do them. And so you're setting a time to knock them out. That's actually really a good way to handle it is to set a specific time to knock all of that out. But yeah, staying motivated can be hard and doing things that we know we have to do but aren't motivated to do is tough. So time boxing, it's the perfect answer, Eric. Thank you for sharing that. All right, anything else on goal setting? I'm going to give you just an extra little bit of minute because these were some specific goal questions, but I do want you to think about, you know, are there any other goals for the week where maybe it doesn't align to the high level monthly goals, but you know you need to do it? It is the holiday season. So just really think about holistically what else needs to be on this goal list before we move into task planning. Just take a minute to just review the goals you wrote down and make sure, see if there's just anything else that you need to catch on there. All right. Now for the fun part. For each of the goals you wrote down, make sure that you've got at least one concrete action item for them. This is the part where I suggest taking whatever you've written down and maybe even rewrite it to summarize it. And so if you're using the worksheet, we've got this little block down here for you to put the goals together. And then for each of the goals, make sure you have an actionable action item that you're writing down. Like, what is the task or activity you're doing for each of the goals you just set for the week? Maybe the goal itself is written that way. That's awesome. But double check it and make sure that it's something where maybe you can break it down into smaller steps if you need to. Maybe the goal is too big for a week. So you have an action item that's a little bit smaller. But summarize the goals and make sure you've got a committed task, activity, or action item that you can commit to for the week. And what Eric shared is a good example of that. Like, yes, the big missing assignments, but saying, hey, here's my commitment is I'm going to do X, Y, and Z by this time. That's a great commitment. And let me know how much time we need for this section. This one's a little nebulous to me, how much time everybody needs to have an action item, because some of your goals might be easier to translate into action items and some people might need more time. So I'd love to just do a little check and see, if people maybe put an X in chat when you're done with this section. So you don't have to use a lot of words, but put an X in chat when you're done with the setting of a task or action item for each goal. Okay, Jeremy, super fast. Good job. Jeremy's all done. It's okay if you need more time. Anybody else? I just want to make sure that I'm not giving you guys too much time. Kelly says done. Thank you, Kelly. And for those of you who are done early, feel free to get your calendar view ready. And one of the things that we talked about last week is that when you're setting goals for the week, if you have a calendar that's full of like meetings and stuff you're doing, every day for your day job, the meetings, the appointments, it's actually good to keep your goal activities possibly on a separate calendar just so that you can check in with them and not lose them in the noise of your meetings. It really just depends on how you manage your day. But if the separate calendar isn't something you're not going to look at, then just keep that in mind. But make sure that as we move into the next space where we plan the week, know what works for you and have that ready. And for me, it does help to compartmentalize it. All right. Anybody else want to X up in chat, kind of signifying that you're done with the goal activity setting? This week, personally, I'm doing something a little different. Last week, I used the kind of that week at a glance view that I have in the Etsy shop. But this week, I'm being crazy and I'm switching to the more complicated view for the week ahead. I really like this one, and this is in the holiday pattern. So this one's available on Patreon, which I'm super excited about. The holiday exclusive up on Patreon for the weekly planner. But that's what I'll be working this week. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into the weekly planning. I don't know if we lost some folks or if they're very excitedly writing down their tasks, but I do want to go ahead and move into the weekly planning. And if y'all need more time on the previous step, that's okay. You can do you can catch up because this one's going to take a minute. So what we're going to do is sit down and look at the week ahead. And for everything that you put down as a committed task, action item, or activity, it's really important for you to commit to kind of when during the week you're going to want to do it. And if you do have a busy work or school calendar with your classes, meetings, appointments, pull that up so you have that as a reference, because it's really important to balance your week. And it's also important as part of that balance to give yourself breathing room. And balance, thank you, Sam. Sam says she's done with that part too. Balance looks different for everybody. Personally, I've noticed that I like to have like a couple really busy days and then a couple really slow days. Other people like to have balance during the day where you make sure that you get breaks. So just know yourself and what works for you and really factor that in as you're planning out your week. And take a look at your work schedule and then pull up your week at a glance view for the goal setting activity, whichever one of these it might look like for you, and just start taking each of those activities and putting them in your week. This is also the part where I encourage you to curate your work or meeting calendar a little bit too. And anything that doesn't necessarily have to be on there, think about whether you can cancel some meetings. I am a big proponent of canceling meetings, as a lot of people know. But if it's not necessary, like it's just wasting everybody's time. So just take a look and see if you have any meetings like that that you can kind of get rid of. And as you're looking at your week, make sure to bring in any kind of health and fitness goals that you have. The whole point of this is to create a holistic view of your life for the week and make sure that you are able to honor commitments to yourself and not just work. I think it's really easy to fall into the habit of putting work first. And I don't think that's healthy. I think that's really a bad habit I was in for a very long time. And so just take a look at your week and make sure that you're balancing in what you want to do personally for your own personal goals. It's not just about work. And for anybody just joining, we're taking our goals and the tasks that support those goals and we're putting them on our calendar for the week. And just remember too that time boxing things is important. And if there's something you've been putting off, make the decision if you're going to do it. Just ask yourself when. When am I going to do this? And get it calendared, and that will help you stay on track. And if anybody's like struggling with this part or any of the goal setting, feel free to drop a question in the chat. So if you have any questions about this or you're trying to like figure something out, like definitely here to support the process with anybody. So if there's anything that you want to talk through, drop it in chat. Really, really happy to help answer any questions or help brainstorm something. All right, hopefully you've got your week filled out. Mine, since I'm working the worksheet, it looks kind of like this. On the worksheet that I'm working with, I have things slotted out on the days. And then on the to-do list, what I'm doing is I'm writing things down that I kind of want to be able to check off as outcomes. And so you could put action items on there. I like to do it as, hey, when I look back at the end of the week, I want to be able to say, yes, these are like the outputs or these are the outcomes I got. That makes me feel really good. And then I also planned out my gym activities. I have been dying to get myself to a class and not just do solo workouts. And so one of my goals for this week is to actually attend some sort of class. And so I'm going to schedule a yoga class for Monday. That's a huge deal for me. That may seem small to some people, but honestly, it's a big deal for me to do any sort of group activity. So that is on there as something major that I want to do. And so as you're wrapping up, your kind of plan for the week, definitely think about like what is going to make you feel accomplished, and do you want to write that down as a list where you can kind of check it off and celebrate it? Those are the things that can help sustain you during the week, because it's so easy to get caught up in the weeds and the minutia of the week. And so I'd love for you to check in on wherever you're putting this throughout the week. Check your progress, not just as a reminder of what to do, but just look at where you're going and why you're doing this. And one of the things that might help keep you on track is what is your inspiration for the week? Like if you are going through the week and you're like, what is it that I can think of that's going to keep me on track? Or what can you use to inspire yourself? I was just thinking about that for myself, and that's what I was jotting down on the top of here is like inspiration. And so what inspires you could be anything, but personally, what's inspiring me right now is to keep like my focus on the bigger picture of what it is I'm trying to do. But what inspires you might be totally different. It might be hitting like a super big goal. It might be a person that inspires you, a song, but what is it that you can lean on for inspiration or motivation through the week to kind of remind yourself why you're doing this? I think it might be nice if you wrote that down and put that on your journal or in your calendar, because again, it's easy to get caught up in the distractions and the weeds of the week. And it's nice to have something to look back and be like, oh, right, yes, that is why I'm doing this. Or yes, that does keep me going. So, and if you feel like sharing what your inspiration is, feel free to put that in the chat too. I'd love to know what you think can keep you motivated and inspired and keep you going for the week. And, part of the reason I'm sharing mine is to also give myself some accountability, right? Is, hey, no, I'm working for something bigger and it's important to me. And so that's why doing some of the hard stuff is worth it. And before we wrap up, I have two things I just want to bring up really quick. One is that if you're noticing that one of your challenges with getting things done is procrastination, I think somebody might have mentioned that last week. That is actually our video for the week. And so it just went up last night on the main channel, is a video all about what the heck is going on with procrastination and how to deal with it. So if that is one of your challenges, absolutely take a look at the video. I'm also curious if that is one of your challenges and you watch the video and I haven't kind of addressed your particular problem, definitely let me know, because I shared this at the end of the video, but I've spent the last 20 years working on my productivity system because I wanted to conquer procrastination. I had a huge struggle with procrastination when I was younger, and it was killing my soul. I'm not gonna, I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. So I've done all of this to conquer that. And that's part of why I want to help people. Jeremy says, met with customers last week, and one of them said that the work that we're doing is making their lives better. That's my inspiration for my work goals. Jeremy, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That is really inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. I actually really love hearing that. And as we think about having like purpose-filled and purpose-led lives, just really anchoring back to your why of doing things is so important. And if you've got customers or clients, I love client service. You know, it always made my life so much better to know that I was helping people. And so, Jeremy, that's such a great message. Thank you for sharing that. But yeah, if you're struggling with procrastination, watch the video. If the video doesn't help, tell me why, and I will absolutely work with you on that. Happy to help, because this one's near and dear to my heart. I had actually put all of my feelings about procrastination into a box and put a lid on it. And so when I opened up in this video, it was actually hugely cathartic for me to talk about how bad my problem used to be. But it might help for people to know, you know, that I was in a bad spot with procrastination. And that is why I've spent so long building a system and a structure for myself, so that I can live the life I want and be the person that I want to be. So that's my first note. And then my other question for chat, and since this is kind of a good group here, is I'm going to be doing a guided end of year reflection live session. So kind of like this with productivity, I'm going to be adding a couple different sessions for end of year reflection as a guided exercise. And so I'd love to know in chat, and I'll put a survey up as well, but I'd love to get an idea from people of like what day and time might work for people who might be interested in the end of year reflection session. It is something I do every year that's hugely valuable for my own personal and professional growth. And I really want to help people through that process. And one of our viewers, one of my friends mentioned, because I have a workbook up for end of year reflection, but she's like, Gabby, it might help people if you do a guided session. So I'm super happy to do that. If anybody has any opinions on when, let me know. And then I'll also put up like a poll or a survey on the YouTube community tab. And so you guys can weigh in on when that might make sense. All right, everybody, is there anything anybody has any questions about or wants to talk about? Because we've gone through and, you know, did the reflection on last week, re-anchored into our monthly goals, set the weekly goals, broke out the tasks and action items, and then put them on the calendar. And our pro tips for this week are, as Sam reminded us, check in on this throughout the week, but also write about this throughout the week. Like write out kind of what you're finding as you go through your week and any thoughts to bring into next week. So just make sure to jot down your notes as you go. I'm just going to give one more plug for my worksheet because I love it. It's up on Etsy, but that's actually part of it on the worksheet. So if you're using this and you plan for the week and you just check in on it through the week, the questions are on there too, and you can jot down the notes as you go through the week. It's up on Etsy. The link's in the description. One last plug for that. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining. I hope that was helpful. Look for the poll on the end of your reflection timing. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, I would really appreciate it if, you know, people wanted to go support on Patreon. There are great rewards up on the Patreon if you do choose to become a Patreon member or supporter, including the holiday exclusive version of the week ahead, which I just think is so fun. But yeah, thanks for joining. I hope this was fun. I'll see you all next week for the productivity session, and I'll be scheduling the end of year reflection if anybody's interested in that. And I just wish everybody luck this week. This is going to be an amazing week. Thank you, Jeremy, for saying good session. You guys have got this. Be sure to just keep that inspiration, check in on your inspiration statement. That's really going to help you stay on track this week. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.